Miss Quinces in your homeschool. I just finished reading and discussing Miss Quinces with my 8 to 10-year-old weekly graphic novel book club on Outschool and the 11 to 13-year-old weekly graphic novel book club on Outschool. The opinions of the kids varied on this one. I would say over 70% of the kids really enjoyed it. And then that other 30% either didn't like it at all or had really mixed feelings about it, which is never a problem. I welcome those opinions in our book club because it gives the students kind of an opportunity to stand by, their own enjoyment of a book and explain why or why not. What I really appreciated is how many students have kind of gotten to the point, even in my 8 to 10-year-old book club, where they could say, like, I didn't really like this book, but they can share the value they saw in it. One of my 10-year-olds said how he didn't like the book very much, but he could see why it would be a great read for someone. And he mentioned a few things. And I just love that they've kind of gotten to that point. All right. All right, so when we discuss a graphic novel in book club, we talk about the story and then we talk about the graphics as kind of two separate discussion times. So for Miss Quinces, for the story, we talked about what were some of the problems that the characters were having and what solutions did they come up with? What were some of the compromises that were made? The main character, Sue, is having a lot of conflict with her mother, with her sister, with other family members, and they end up compromising in many ways. Now, one of the big compromises that happens doesn't work out. So Sue does not want to do a quinceañero, but her mom wants her to. So they agree that if she does it, mom will let her go to a summer camp back home in the United States. She'll register her and she can go with her friends. Originally, mom had said she couldn't do that. Well, mom forgets to register her because a lot of things are going on, including the grandmom, the mom's mom, dying. She's sick and she ends up dying in the book. So that causes a problem because now Sue is not getting her end of the deal. She's not getting to go to camp. So she has to decide if she's still going to do the quinceañero. And it was interesting to discuss with the students, why do we think the author did that? I mean, maybe it's because that's the way it really happened. But if it wasn't, why do you think she did that in the story? And we talked about maybe it feeling more realistic. Sometimes things don't work out. And we talked about how it gave ownership to Sue over that decision, whether or not to have the quinceañero. And so even though she still went through with it, she now owned it. She wasn't doing it just to please someone else. And of course, there were a lot more compromises made going forward for the party to feel more like her own. All right, so those were just some of the things we talked about with the story. Then I love to talk about the graphics. And one of the big things I'm always asking in the graphic novel book club is how do the graphics help tell the story? The choices made in the graphics, how are they supporting the storytelling? So I'm just going to give you two quick examples, though you can see I have a lot of different things marked. I tend to mark things I notice as I'm reading to discuss it with the students in class. So here on page 142, we have the telephone cord separating the panels. And we talked about this. Why does this help tell the story? Well, of course, because they're on a phone call. It allows the two girls talking on the phone to be in the same panel because they're the ones talking back and forth to one another. So the dialogue boxes need to be together, but this telephone cord reminds the reader that they're not in the same room, that they are in separate settings. So we can have different backgrounds and things like that. And of course, it was fun just to talk about an old-fashioned telephone cord because a lot of my students, well, obviously they don't have it in their house. Some have never even seen it. Then we talked about Sue's panic attack, which actually starts on page 149, but continues. So I'm going to flip the page to where it's a little larger. On page 150, we talked about how the illustrator and author tried to capture the feeling of a panic attack in graphics. What might these lines be? Her fears, her anxieties, they're coming in, they're closing in on her, and we see that in the graphics. We talked about these little puffs of breath, that like, that breathing that happens during a panic attack and how that is pictured here as well. And then even as we go down, really highlighting that it's over here with Sue, that mom and sister are in the normal background, the yellow. Sue is the one really experiencing this panic and how it can make you feel a little isolated. And we see that there in the graphics. So those are just two examples, but that's the kind of thing I love using a graphic novel to discuss. So I hope this gives you some ideas so that you can use this one in your book club and discuss it with your own children. And of course, the link below is to the full blog post where you can grab questions for any graphic novel and print them out, and also check out a product where I have 5 different graphic novels and I go through what you can ask about the graphics and the story. All right, happy reading, everyone.